So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce my fellow speaker today. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable Kent Hare, Minister of Support and Persons with Disabilities and Member of Parliament for Calgary Centre. He is here speaking on behalf of the Honourable Ralph Goodale, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do you know I'm going to be brief?
I've heard you before.
Oh, okay, there we go, there we go. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that introduction. And I think it's always important to note that we are here on Treaty 7 land, where Indigenous partners have been building community for generation upon generation upon generation. And I know all of us, are very proud and honored to share the land and build community with them today. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Honourable Ralph Goodale, Canada's Minister of Public Safety. And it's an honour to join the women and men of Calgary's Police Service and many others from our community. They have a tough job, and we are all deeply grateful for the hard work that they do each and every day to keep our communities safe. And some of you will know, throughout my career I've been focused on a number of public safety issues, including addressing gun violence. As a shooting victim, I know all too well that despite being a fundamentally safe and peaceful city, Calgary is not immune to violence. No city is. And while we've always had to deal with criminals of all kinds, we're facing a new type of threat. The tragic reality is that youth who are not engaged in their community, who do not feel part of their community, who do not have opportunities in their community, can be radicalized to violence. We must help and support them to make sure they choose a path that builds their lives, their communities, and their countries in a meaningful way. When those threats materialize, the men and women on the front line do an incredible job of responding and keeping the public safe. Increasingly though, we're also seeing that prevention and intervention programs directed at individuals at risk of adopting dangerous ideologies can and do work. In Canada, in fact, we are striving to be a global leader in this area. We want to build on the country's strengths of inclusivity and diversity and put an emphasis on preventing individuals from becoming involved in violent extremist movements. This is why prevention was a core election commitment on national security and why it's front and center in our mandate now. It's an important component of Canada's approach to countering terrorism. While we use a broad range of legal tools and powers to counter terrorism, that's simply not enough. If we can help prevent a tragedy from happening, we should. Our overarching goal is to help build more resilient communities, encourage collaboration across sectors, organizations, academia, and governments. This year, we announced the creation of the Canada Centre for Community Engagement and Prevention of Violence. The Canada Centre takes a broad approach to this issue, recognizing the incredible efforts to prevent radicalization to violence are best led at the community level. It provides national leadership and coordination to support the various local efforts across the country, and a key part of work is through the Community Resilience Fund. This fund was created to enhance those partnerships, promote innovation in countering radicalization to violence research and domestic programming, learn from good practice at the local level, and share these lessons among frontline practitioners across Canada. So today, as part of that fund, I'm pleased to announce funding of $1.3 million from the Community Resilience Fund for a groundbreaking multi-partner initiative working to address radicalization to violence in Calgary. The project is called the ReDirect Program. The ReDirect Program helps youth vulnerable to radicalization develop their resilience against becoming involved in violent extremism. It's a prevention and early intervention initiative by Calgary Police Services in collaboration with the City of Calgary and the Calgary Neighborhood and Social Services. It helps identify youth vulnerable to radicalization and assists them with individualized support plans along with awareness and education campaigns in the community. It recognizes that not all vulnerable youth are walking the same path and they can't each be painted with the same brush. What it does is address all forms of radicalization to violence, regardless of the ideology behind it. It encourages that vulnerabilities can and should be addressed, and it reinforces the point. Radicalization to violence is a problem that harms communities, and we all need to come together as a society to address it. This new funding will allow ReDirect to significantly expand its capabilities. That means more direct one-on-one contact, more interventions, more community awareness, and more education. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I'd like to thank all involved in this groundbreaking project. Your local leadership and expertise is vital to helping make Canada safe, inclusive, and the innovative country that we all want it to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. It was brief.
Briefish.
On behalf of Chief Constable Chaffin and the entire Calgary Police Service, I would like to thank the Government of Canada for this generous grant. ReDirect was officially launched 2 years ago as a Made in Calgary approach to help youth at risk for radicalization. The program was based on best policing practices, extensive research, and consultations with enforcement agencies, international experts, and local community groups. The program has two main goals: preventing young adults from turning to extremism, and helping police officers better recognize the signs of radicalization and violent extremism in our city. ReDirect follows a model similar to other programs we have at the Calgary Police Service to help youth at risk of joining gangs or children who are involved in high-risk behavior. When a young person is referred to ReDirect, our partners and us work to create a personalized support plan to help that youth get back on the right path. The individual then meets regularly with a ReDirect team made up of a police officer and a social worker from Calgary neighborhoods to work through their support plan. Through this relationship building and the multitude of outside supports available to us, we have had a lot of success. As a recent ReDirect client told us, quote, "Now I can be myself again, thanks to you. I never thought that I would succeed in my life. I thought I was nothing. But your program has helped restore my confidence in myself and helped me become a better person." Another key component of ReDirect is education and creating community awareness. Radicalization is not a problem that the police can address on our own. It takes schools, parents, relatives, community leaders, and everyone else working together to identify those who are trying to manipulate youth and young adults. It also takes a community to identify and help those young people who are vulnerable to people who would exploit them through radicalization. ReDirect focuses on community involvement in identifying these vulnerable individuals. The community outreach component of ReDirect is what will benefit most from today's grant. We hope to use part of these funds to hire a civilian team member who will go out into the community and educate people on what radicalization looks like and how it can be prevented. This new member of the team will also enable us to provide a more robust support to the families of ReDirect clients and make sure that they are also getting the support they need. Finally, the grant will help us expand the training we provide to members of the ReDirect team and will give us the resources to add additional police officers and social workers as needed in the future. We would not be able to expand and improve the ReDirect program without the unwavering support of Public Safety Canada, the City of Calgary, and our other partners. So once again, Minister Hare, on behalf of our city and our service, thank you. We will now open the floor to questions.
Is this program only being introduced in Calgary?
Yes, at this point, yes.
Why Calgary first? Is there more of a problem here, more perceived problem?
No, I think what it is that we Calgary Police already has programs for youth at risk, And so, the ReDirect program partners with that and adds to it. So we're already engaged in it. We wouldn't say that we wouldn't work with the RCMP or other police services in the province. Absolutely, especially if we've learned something, we would want to share that.
So when you're talking radicalization, you're talking Islamic State and what, gang?
Any radicalizations to violence. So it could be a young person that brings a gun to a school. It could be the Islam kind of radicalization with ISIS. It could be any form of violent behavior.
How do you identify people who might be at risk? I mean, it's one thing to give a speech to a group, but do people have to come forward and point or recommend somebody?
Yes. Basically, we get our recommendations or the referrals from the schools and from the community, and so they come forward saying that they're worried about the youth, and then what we do is then we engage with that family, not just the youth. We engage with the whole family to make sure that they're getting the support they need.
Over 2 years, how many youth have you worked with?
We don't like to give out numbers at this point because it's just been a pilot phase up until now. So now that we've received our funding, we're able to expand and get the more consistent referrals that we would like.
How many officers or how many members are part of the action program?
We have 1 police officer, 1 social worker right now, partnership, plus a sergeant, and then we have this new civilian position that we're going to be hiring.
And so the civilian will basically be administrative, or?
No, it's going to be. It's a limited term position, and what the role will be is curriculum design, education for the community, support for the families. There's going to be some research component to it. So they're going to be an all-encompassing position at the end of the day.
How, when you guys talk to these kids, how are they getting lured in? I mean, we've heard about ways that gangs tended to draw kids in the past. When it comes to radicalization and not gangs, what are the methods that are put in?
I'm not an expert, but I know that online is our biggest fear, and I don't know if you know more than I do, but I know a lot of times what it is, and Minister Hare was mentioning it, is if a young person doesn't feel part of the family, part of the community, that they don't feel like they belong, then it's a lot easier for gangs or people on the internet or other friends of theirs that are also not feeling that they connect. That's when they start being vulnerable to suggestions where if they feel like they belong all of a sudden, even though it's a group that maybe isn't healthy, it's belonging. And that's something that a lot of youth are looking for.
Very similar to the grooming process we talk about when we talk about sexual abuse.
Right.
Youth are looking for connection, and if they don't have that connection with their community, connection with the people around them, connection with friends and family, they're going to struggle. They're going to look for opportunities to lash out. That's why this program is very important to getting them engaged, very important to work with the Calgary Police Service and others in the community who can say, hey, what's the issue? How can we work with you to improve your outcomes, improve your life, improve your ability to connect? And that's what I'm so excited about.
Are we looking at generally more often certain cultural groups that you'd be working with?
If we look at this, well,
no, you go ahead.
No, but
Could you come a little closer to the podium?
Well, if you look at this, everyone is, not everyone, but many people can be prone to violence. And if you look at our youth, there's no one group that stands out. We have to ensure that all our youth are being supported, that people, if they're tending to show violence and show extremism in all forms, that we have to continue to build that capacity to try and work with them to get them on the right path, find that way forward. So I don't sense you can say any one particular group or not. What you can say is we're concerned about youth who tend to be marginalized, who tend to be identified and tried to steered away from how to become engaged in their community, and that's what this program is going to keep on trying to do.
We're going to be seeing similar announcements across the country, Minister.
We will continue to work with our election pledge to engage the community to lessen violent extremism in this country. And I know Minister Goodale is devoted to ensuring keeping Canada as safe as he possibly can each and every day.
Minister, just to clarify on this, so Calgary is the first city to receive this kind of funding?
We have more details on this that we can go through. My understanding it is.
Okay, gotcha. And can either of you address the issue in terms of over this past year, in terms of when it comes to this? Well, actually, before I even ask that, let me just clarify once again. This is money directed towards kids who are prone potentially to radicalization. So we're talking Islamic radicalization, or this could be youth that are potentially going into a street gang that has nothing to do with that?
We looked at the unique programming that's provided here by the Calgary ReDirect Program. We understand that this city has many youth who are not fitting in and maybe looking for other ways to lash out and possibly become violent. This is to work with all those youth who struggle and who may be prone to this violence. And that's what we're really seeking to address.
Gotcha. And just going back to that original question then of why Calgary, is this because there's a program in place here so it seems like a good fit for this kind of funding, or is it a case of where you're seeing a bigger problem here in Calgary than other jurisdictions?
Calgary's had great leadership on this. I sense the direction of the police force is working with many groups who struggle. I know their great work with the LGBTQ community, their great work with Calgarians with disabilities, and how they've taken this and understood that youth were becoming vulnerable to being not connected to their communities. And that's why we saw this program as working. That's why we're committed to it, and I think it's going to lead to more sharing and more understanding. Like I said in the announcement, we want to build a model of keeping Canada safe that's based on best practices, on organizations that are finding unique alternatives to building stronger communities, and Calgary has led on this for a long, long time.
Right. If I could ask police then, what are you seeing? I mean, give me a sense on this when it comes to you're using the word radicalization here, so give me a sense. Over this last year, or trending-wise, what are you seeing in terms of radicalization with these? Is the problem getting worse? Have you any sense of that whatsoever?
I don't have any statistics with me today, obviously, but it's not that it's getting any worse or any better necessarily. It's the fact that with this funding that we're able to get, we're actually able to focus on the wraparound care that is required for any youth that is not even just radicalization, but any youth that's vulnerable to, like you said, sexual exploitation or radicalization or gang violence, right? So we want to be able to offer the full wraparound care for the whole family, and that's where Calgary Neighborhoods with our social workers, that's why it's such a good program, is that we're not only just with police, but we're with the social workers, and we're with Alberta Health Services, and we're with the community groups, and it's a holistic approach to any youth that's got propensity for being vulnerable to radicalization behavior.
Gotcha. And I'm almost ending here, but just first of all, if I'm clear on this, then all this money is going towards ReDirect.
Right. And
you have 2 current full-time staff there.
Right.
And you'll hire a 3rd now.
We're hiring a civilian limited-term position, yes.
Gotcha. And give me a sense of what are the challenges that you're facing in terms of kind of getting into these communities? I mean, how can this money help that? Where are you having a hard time connecting with these families and with these communities within the city?
I think the biggest focus for our new civilian position is going to be the curriculum design aspect of it, and going out into the community and saying, this is what to look for. This is this is what vulnerable youth might look like. This is so that people are actually watching for it. We don't want to armchair quarterback something later and say, oh yeah, well I saw the behavior change, or I saw that the youth wasn't part of any group in the school, and geez, I didn't realize that they were going to do that. We don't want to get to that point. What we want to do is be able to identify it when it's happening. And of course, we're in the schools as police, but we're not in there all the time, and we don't know every child. And so by being able to get into the community and educate the teachers and the principals and the cleaning staff at the schools, I mean, they're seeing graffiti, or they're seeing children that are distressed because they might be sitting by themselves, and identify it, and then be able to come to us and refer that youth to us, and then we can engage.
Sorry. Can you say you find a youth you think is at risk? Can you kind of go through the process and what exactly you do?
Do you have a play-by-play?
I don't have that with me now, no.
Basically, we meet with the youth and the family with our social worker partners. We assess where the child is at or the youth is at, and then we decide as a group on what would be the best services for that family in order to make sure that the child is engaged with the community. Like Minister Hare was saying, the biggest part of this is to make sure that they feel like they're part of their own community, so that they don't want to be violent towards it, or they don't want to fly across the world to be part of something that's violent. We want them to feel like they belong here and be a valuable member of society.
In the process, if they end up naming names of people who are involved in, who have been talking to them, working with them, and trying to radicalize them, is there an information flow through? Does that information get passed back to another part of the police service where that person could be subject to an investigation?
Right,
Can
absolutely.
we stand next to the mic?
Sorry, absolutely. We do have other areas of the Calgary Police Service that investigate any kind of radicalized or terrorist behavior, and so obviously, if we were to learn of individuals that were exploiting these youth, or that were already involved in radicalization behavior, we would definitely pass that information to the other areas of the Calgary Police and the RCMP that we work quite closely with to ensure that a full investigation is done.
Do you have any idea how many children could be potentially at risk in Calgary?
In Calgary, no. I wouldn't want to guess.